the people have been calling for Viper. And Simtom, as I said, might be one of the more underrated players of the tournament. He's not seeded, but he has played in quite a lot of small tournaments. And I think he is also on the ladder. I will check on that in a moment. So, Simtom is... he's not on the ladder, so... Or at least not in the top 200. But I heard very, very good things about him. And we have to highlight here before we actually dig very deep into this game that the Mongol town center rushing is actually banned. You can't TC drop your opponent because that just makes the game pretty much unplayable right now.
Yeah, it was a reasonable outcome, I think. A lot of people were concerned about the power of it. I think that there are more and more counters coming out for it at the moment. We saw Maito coming up with a very ingenious counter to sort of wall around his town center, but not to actually build those walls, which actually prevents the town center from being dropped down. But nonetheless, we thought it's very important for it to not be enabled in the tournament. So yeah, glad to see it being banned. But this game, Viper going to be going on the French, playing up against Simtom, who's playing on the Mongols. And I'm curious to see exactly how Simtom's going to be approaching this game. I would expect against Viper that you probably want to avoid market booming or trade post booming. So keep in mind that in Age of Empires 4, there are neutral trading post sites towards the east of the map. We've got a neutral trading post, and towards the west of the map, we've also got a trading post. So you can choose whichever one you would like to trade with. But keep in mind, Viper is the type of player who is going to really, be able to out APM you. He's going to be able to out micro you. And with the Mongols, they've got no access to walls, so they cannot wall their trade route in. So he'd be under constant target harassment. Now, Simtom going to be moving out across the map. A couple of scouts coming out. Very interesting, Lidakor. What do you think about this?
So, there's a lot of things to talk about here, first off. Chat actually helped me out with Simtom's rating. He's actually 58th, but when I searched for him on the Age of Empires website, he didn't show up. But I like the Scouts opening. The Mongols are a civilization that can place a stable in Dark Age, and you could even go for their early horsemen. But the horseman is pretty expensive. It's 100 food and 20 gold, or 20 wood, even if you go for the double training, which is something that Simtom is doing. Whereas the scouts are much cheaper, and the whole concept here for Simtom is that he wants to force Viper off from gold to prevent the knights from even coming out.
Yeah, it's a very difficult spot. I think one of the things that I've been doing in every time I'm playing against the Mongols, I start out gathering more wood than I would in other matchups, and that wood can be used for things like a barracks or for an outpost, because now we've got a counter outpost coming in, and this is where it gets difficult because Viper's not going to be able to gather from this gold. When this outpost goes up, he's going to be able to garrison units inside it, begin firing, but already on the minimap, it looks like Viper's actually decided to begin taking his back gold. A little bit safer for him, so going to be sending out 2 villagers out there to begin building that, but we continue to see this dance. If Viper was on the ball, what he'd actually do is send his villagers up and actually clock those sheep over the head and say, they're my sheep now, because the Khan is going to have those sheep following him around until he does return back to the base.
This is an interesting situation for Viper right now, mainly because he's out of resources. I think the best thing he can do is actually go feudal and try to get some horsemen out, because he won't have a lot of gold. He has now repositioned his gold miners to the left, but even 2 or 3 horsemen can beat these scouts. As you see, this is the concept here for Simtom. He's coming in with the towers to deny the food income, the gold income, and you did mention in the previous game that against Springolds, the scouts actually work out nicely because they're cheap and they have good torch damage. That also applies in Dark Age raiding, because the Mongols will get 50 food and 50 gold when they set buildings on fire. So Simtom can just run around and set buildings on fire and even get some resources from that.
Yeah, he's going to be very happy with that. So picking up the first mining camp, and now going to be heading around towards the west of the base. Very likely to be going for that next mining camp as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Viper actually look to put an outpost up on this mining camp and just provide a bit of defense. But alternatively, it looks like he's not going to have the resources for it. He does have 140 wood at the moment, but I'm fearful that if he did try and get that up, he'd probably lose a villager or 2 over on that side. Now, keep in mind, his starting gold, it is still towered up at this point. And we actually see Simtom towards the north going to continue pushing in with towers now. Scouts getting in on the action. Look how much damage they're taking, though. Needs to be careful. That town center getting out plenty of shots. 9 villagers sitting inside that town center, and Viper punishing Simtom right there.
Yeah.
So Simtom going to be losing a lot of his siege damage.
Yeah, I feel like the problem here for Simtom is that scouts are not really good at killing villas. They can harass them, and if it's like one scout versus one villager, it's fine. But you can't really take fights in the range of the town center. Still, Simtom forced Viper off from gold entirely, so Viper cannot go for a single knight, and you see that Viper also can't take his berries, which basically means that Viper has to add farms very early on in this game, and you see Viper even has to pull the ladies and the gentlemen to take down that outpost.
Yeah, that's a lot of villagers being pulled right there. A huge amount of villager seconds as well that he's going to be losing out of that. Every second he's out here, that's 10 villager seconds that he's losing. And keep in mind, this could all be denied by a single knight, but obviously not having that gold income means that there's no knights, and so very difficult for him. And now going to be heading back towards his woodline. More villagers going to be pushing out. I think Simtom somewhat baited him with that outpost. Undoubtedly, Viper can just see it there. He wants to get his hands on it. But that scout going to be going down for Viper now. Going to be losing a lot of intel. And Simtom managing to get his scouts out of there. And that outpost going to be going down now. Finally, the knight comes out and should be able to shut this down pretty safely, I would say.
Yep, I would say that what Simtom is doing here is a very, very risky build. Because if there's just one knight, you will lose your entire forward. And you see that's exactly what's happening right now. And he's still Dark Age. In fact, his resources aren't looking amazing. He's going up to Feudal right now, adding Barracks. So it's gonna be Spearman for now. But in the long run, what you want to play is probably Mangodai with the Maneuver Arrow on the con. Because the Mangodai actually perform pretty well against the Knights, despite the fact that they're actually not supposed to be an armor-piercing unit.
Yeah, they do. As long as they can maintain that distance, and as long as you don't take your eyes off them, because you know what knights are like. You take your eyes off the battle for 1 second, and all of a sudden there's 45 knights charging in at top speed. So you got to be extra careful with them. But now towards the north, it looks like Viper's going to be trying to secure these berries. Having a bit of a difficult time because the outpost is now going to begin firing at his villagers. So may need to get a knight in there to begin tanking it up. Keep in mind those knights are going to have access to chivalry. Chivalry's going to be healing up those knights so he can get them in under the outpost, take a bunch of damage, and then get them out, and he'll still be fine.
Yes, he will, but the main problem he's facing is that he has one knight on the battlefield right now. He also started making spearmen, which was sort of a reaction to the scouts. He wasn't sure he can make knights, so he started making spearmen to try and counter this aggression. The problem is that spearmen will be horrible against the Mongols because they will just go Mangodai eventually. Looks like we will have Simtom opening with hardened spearmen, so he's gonna have quite a few of those. And he's already adding pastures. I like that because it's an investment early on, but the longer you have those pastures up, the more sheep you will get from them.
Yeah, I really like the pasture mechanic, and it's part of the reason why I think Mongols are a very strong economic powerhouse when it comes to late game, is because of those pastures. They do gather very quickly. Knight going to be coming in now and looking to scout out a little bit. Does spot that there is an outpost down here, as well as a Gur. Some villagers just doing some gathering of that hunt. And now we see some spearmen moving out towards the north. And Viper, I'm curious to know what you think of his position right now. How do you feel he's doing?
Bad. Like, he can definitely try to come back into this one, but he's on the back foot. He had to invest into a lot of farms, and while French have an amazing economy, the problem is that once we get to, like, a lot of Mangodai, that's gonna be extremely difficult for the French to counter. So, like, 20-25 Mangodai, that's gonna be a challenge. It looks like there is some hardened spearman against normal spearman. Bit of a mismicro from Simtom because he did lose the con here in this battle.
Yeah, that's quite big. That sort of puts him out of the action for at least the next 2 minutes while he waits for that Khan to come back. But there is a small amount of spears out on the field, and I think Simtom's got to be careful because if Viper chooses to engage with those spears, he might be able to pick them off without taking any damage himself. Keep in mind, these Royal Knights are going to be able to heal up, so just because they've lost a lot of HP doesn't mean that they are dead or going to die. Chivalry now going to be coming in as well for Viper. So 3 minutes time, his Knights are going to be back up to full HP. He's going to be very happy. But more and more Knights now coming out as well for Simtom. A significant mass beginning to build. And one of the things to note is Viper just doesn't have the mass that he should have, just simply because of the lack of gold that he had in the early game. So at this point, ideally, he should be sitting on about 8 or 9 knights, which would be more than enough to take out those units. But at the moment, it looks like he's sitting on about less than 5.
And this is the gold mine that he needs to use, which is wide open. His opponent Simtom even has gotten the arrow slits upgrades on the towers, so they will keep denying this even without units being garrisoned. So far, it looks like it's just spearmen, and now we're seeing archers being added. That's a interesting turn of events, I would say, because archers don't perform well against knights, but it doesn't matter when you have that much spearmen, and you just want archers to sort of start killing the vills.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I suspect the archers, we may see the Magadai come out of that archery range. I'd be curious to know exactly what he looks to add. We'll take a look and see what have we got coming out. Are they just normal archers? Yeah, just normal archers going to be coming out from that. So potentially looking at the Tri-Trash comp that we do see, which is the horsemen, spearmen, and archers, which just cost food and wood. Nice to have in the early game. Extra cheap. Very easy to macro for. But now we're going to see Viper beginning to build up a significant mass of spearmen himself. With those archers out, he's going to be able to pick off those spears, but a decent mass right now for Simtom as he looks to push up towards this expansion. Viper now going to be heading inside his outpost, but keep in mind, this is a lot of units here. Viper going to be fighting under this outpost, and just ideally, he wants to be kiting back from here. Viper's mass is significantly lower than Simtom, so Simtom in a really decent position here, and now going to continue forcing him back. We see that whole time that this outpost is continuing to fire away, and keep in mind, even though there might be not a lot of forces on the field for Viper, the longer the fight goes on, the better for him, because these outposts are going to be laying siege into these units, and we see Viper now dropping down a second outpost up towards the north. A bit of a raid happening down towards the south at the same time, and Viper actually manages to hold.
Yeah, I feel like this was an overextension from Simtom for multiple reasons. He should have waited for the Khan to arrive so he can use the attack speed arrow before the fight. And now that he has lost his spearman mass, suddenly those knights become a lot more viable for Viper. They're still heavily damaged, but once they heal up, they will become a power. So I feel like this was an overextension here from Simtom for various reasons, and he really doesn't want to lose that Khan again.
He's got to be careful. It looks like the Khan might be going down for a second time. He's not pulling it back. Simtom's got to wake up. Unfortunately, he's fallen asleep at the keyboard once again, losing that Khan for the second time in this game in less than 13 minutes. So not the best micro from Simtom. He's going to have to wait another few minutes for that one to come out. Now, keep in mind, he does have he does have the YAM network enabled at the moment. So if he does look to begin trading, he's going to be doing absolutely fine, as well as his outposts are going to be buffing up the villages. We just see that they've got that golden glow around them. Everything's going to be moving faster, so his economy is quite decent at the moment. Are we able to take a quick stock take and see exactly what the villager counts are? 41 villagers for Simtom. Viper sitting on 42, so not too bad for Viper. Keep in mind that the French do have a natural advantage where they're able to make villages faster than all the other civilizations, because just hashtag French things. And so Viper still keeping up, but at the same time, not as high as you would expect him to be.
Yeah, I think this is currently an even game. Part of the reason why is because Viper's got a lot of mobility going for him, and it looks like he will be able to intercept some archers. Simtom is trying to go for the infantry siege upgrade, so he wants to get some battering rams in, and with this many archers, it's actually legitimate to make one battering ram and try to push those towers down. Viper will need to be careful about that.
Yeah, you're 100% on the money with that. Viper needs to be very careful about that, because when it comes to the north of the map and Simtom does potentially look at putting that down, he's going to have that outpost nearby. We see that he's going up. He's going to have access to the YAM network. He's going to be able to effectively kite his enemy with this buff, because it's going to be increasing the movement speed off it. He's going to be careful. He's dropped down a battering ram, but just left it there. So I'm not sure exactly. He might have miscommanded. It does look like he has done that, but now going to be finishing off that battering ram.
Yeah, he's coming in with a battering ram. He's still denying Viper's gold mine, so if he can push Viper away from this gold, Viper will be in trouble. Viper was trying to raid the hunt here of Simtom. I feel like Simtom is fine for the time being, and you see he's repairing that tower immediately. But at some point, that patch of huntables might become a little too uncomfortable for him.
Yeah, he has been losing slowly villagers over time. Viper's been very relentless in his offense there. But now towards the north of the map, we see a push potentially beginning to build. Over towards the left of the screen, we see the battering ram beginning to build. It'll move in, not actually attacking that gold mine, which is where we expected him to go. There are villages that are out, but
you could go for a school of cavalry.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the only place. That's the only place where you can make knights. I think it's a mistake from Simtom to go for the TC. The TC is probably the hardest to take down over here. And he doesn't have a lot of spears, so... Yeah, it's a lot of archers, but if you don't have spears, the knights will still overrun you. Still, that's a huge amount of archers, and it looks like Simtom is going for the TC here.
Yeah, Simtom making the right choice, and we can see that Viper's got plenty of archers there himself. Knight's going to be coming in from the back as well, but they are spears following them. And we see those archers moving back. They do look like they're buffed up. They just move so quickly, don't they? The way that they come in and out. Villagers going to be getting picked off here. And this is exactly what he wants to be targeting. When people think of the ram, okay, often they think of it as a siege weapon, and that is technically true. But ideally, in these games, the siege weapon is designed to draw villagers to it, and then you want to be focusing down those villagers. You want to be getting free villager kills with the ram, and that's exactly what we saw Simtom do right there. So really smart play from him. And Viper looking like he's in a tough position. He is going to be able to repel this ever so slightly. More villagers now coming out looking to burn down that ram. Let's see if Simtom actually goes for the snipe here. It doesn't look like he's going to be paying enough attention to it. He would easily be able to pick up 5 or 6 villager kills right here. More and more lancers, or knights rather, going to be coming out, meeting these archers in battle, but that ram does go down. Villagers manage to get out relatively safely, but now they're also coming up to siege the outpost as well. Viper's very intent on sieging everything with these villagers. Villager going to be going down, and I suspect he's lost quite a few villagers. What's the villager count right now for the Viper?
42 villas for Viper, and we got 45 for our red player, because while Simtom was taking that fight, he actually lost all the villagers on the hunt here on the right side, so it's pretty even. And what I'm seeing is that Simtom just doesn't have enough spears here. Like, there is going to be an increased amount of knights soon by Viper, and those archers will struggle against that. Viper has gotten both the attack and defense upgrade for ranged units, and it looks like that's the case as well for Simtom.
Yeah, I would expect to see both of those upgrades. I'd be curious to know whether Simtom's going to be dropping down... Oh, he's actually dropping down a second ram. This is actually where you're looking to potentially kill your enemy. So Simtom likes his chances here. Hasn't brought out a villager to finish off this outpost, but are we able to check and see if the units are still being provided the buff, despite the outpost not being completed?
They don't. They don't have the buff right now.
Right.
But yeah, this is what I like to see here. The rams taking on the buildings, and remember, every building set on fire, which is pretty easy with the rams, is 50 gold and 50 food for our red players. So you probably just want to take down those small and insignificant buildings and sort of just gain the resources from it.
Yeah, Viper looking like he might be in a bit of a difficult spot here. We see that the numbers for Simtom are beginning to build up. More of these rams getting sieged down by the villagers. Simtom doing his best to focus these down. We do see the +1 Pierce armor really helping out these Royal Knights in this situation. Viper now adding more archers to the mix, and it's definitely what he needs to do. Simtom going to be focusing down those villagers on the front line that look to be sieging that down. Managed to get inside. Don't die while inside, very fortunately. And that town center now going to have 5 villagers inside it. Viper's going to be very careful here because he's getting pushed up against the ropes. Now going to be looking to bring more villagers off that wood line and begin pushing them in. We see Simtom taking those pot shots at the villagers. Knight going to be coming out as well. We see him focusing it down. Villagers managing to take out one ram. Second ram taking a lot of torch damage, but managing to survive with 500 HP. And now the archer spam continues. More knights coming in from the back. We see the charges from either side. Viper going to be bringing in his jousting lances, and those villagers looking for a cleanup right now. Probably going to be able to take out that battering ram with one more swing of torches. They do manage to get it out, and Viper still holds. Wow, what a show from Viper. How is he managing to hold despite having such a lower army number?
I think he's managing to hold with the knights, and I've been saying this for a couple of minutes. You need to take that school of cavalry down. Like, Simtom needs to hold off the knights. Now Viper is able to just spam knights here, and Simtom is being punished for not having anything that kills it. He's trying to mix in spearmen, but the archers will pick them off. And imagine that he could have destroyed that school of cavalry with those 2 rams, and then Viper, he would need a couple more stables to produce knights. The only reason why Viper has knights is because of that school of cavalry. And right now, there's just nothing from Simtom that actually can kill the knights. And you could safely say that this could be a symptom of battle being lost.
Oh, Lidakor, you're terrible. I love it. I think at this point, the advantage is going to be tipped over towards Viper's favor. But I'm curious to see what the villager count is.
Right now, it's 42 for Viper, 53 for Simtom, so he's actually expanding quite rapidly. Now we are seeing more and more Spearmen being mixed in. I still feel like at this point, the name of the game is taking down that School of Cavalry for the time being. But we also have to consider something, and it is this one. Viper is about to run out of mineable gold. So he's gonna need to take down those towers. Does he have the mass to do it? I'm not so sure.
I think he should be fine. As long as he tanks it up with knights, those knights are going to be able to heal up. He'll be absolutely fine to do that. But yes, he will need to clean that out. Looking on the minimap at the moment, it does look like the large gold deposits are quite favorable for Simtom as well. So he's got this 8k just to the right of his base.
Yep.
And he's very close to Simtom's base. This one as well seems very reasonably close to Simtom's base. A bit of a stretch for Viper to reach.
Indeed,
so
it is.
He may have got a bit done on map RNG. We do go, or Arabia is the map of choice. That is ideally because it spawns relatively fairly most of the time. But it looks like Simtom may have a bit of an advantage with regard to that. But Viper going to be cleaning up these outposts now. Going to be able to secure this, but keep in mind Simtom does towards the south have more rams coming in. Let's see if he's identified. He hasn't identified the main threat yet, which is that School of Cavalry. You've talked about that. He's coming back in for this town center. It's down at about half HP at the moment. Going to be picking off one villager.
I feel like he's just overstating the importance of that town center. Like, yeah, if Viper loses that, sure thing, it's gonna be annoying, but is the starting TC he can repair that, and what do you really gain by taking it down compared to taking on the School of Cavalry, which would be much easier to do, because you don't need your spearmen close to the TC for that. You can just have the ram here, and when the cavalry get close, you can send in the spears close to the ram to protect it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So it's definitely, it's important to be taking out the town center, but the School of Cavalry really is the one that he wants to be focusing down. 18 units inside that town center right now. 18 villages, I'm assuming, inside Simtom's TC. Does he realize that? Okay, he's popped them all out now. There might have been a raid in the area or something like that. But now Simtom, looking to get pulled apart right now. Viper's got units all over his base. We actually see down towards the southeast, over here towards the right of his base. There's units just absolutely everywhere, and Viper very intentionally using those raids to pull back the army, forcing him, Simtom, to bring back his army, and then subsequently giving him a little bit of leverage, a little bit of time, a little bit of space to continue the expansion.
Simtom is having food issues. You see that he has had 4 pastures for the whole game ever since Dark Age, and yet now you see that he doesn't have enough sheep, so he's moving out to take that boar, which I like, especially if he sends in a couple of archers to kill it, because otherwise these villagers, 5 villas, might not be enough to take down the boar. But yeah, he's gonna have food issues, and you see, right now he's got like 3 spearmen in that army against now 10 knights.
Yeah, those knight numbers are beginning to build, and he does have +1 pierce as well. So he's going to be able to hold very well with that. Viper up to 49 villages at the moment, so doing well to get back into it. Keep in mind, he's still yet to create... Actually, is that a second town center that we do see on the map? Has he market traded?
No, it's still 1 TC build from Viper.
Oh, yep.
Simtom is also 1 TC, and he's got a 10 villagers lead. He's up to 59. Still no one going into Castle Age, though, so we're seeing a very, very long feudal. I feel like the longer the game goes, the better it is going to be for Viper, because he's able to mass his knights, and the entire game plan for Simtom was to just mass knights and prevent his opponent from getting the knights out, right?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. But now we actually see the second TC going down for Simtom. So ideally in this position, Simtom doesn't want to fight. He wants to sort of just continue the game along. I'm curious to know exactly how Viper is going to be reacting to this, whether he looks to go up to the 3rd age himself, or whether he looks to drop a 2nd TC. So we'll take a look exactly how his response handles or comes about. A decent mass of archers. Are we able to compare the upgrades on those archers and just double check where they're at? So he's got +1 damage, +1 pierce, and Viper's got +1. He's got +1 everything by the looks of it. Okay.
Looks like both players have it. Now Viper is adding more knights, and this is where it's gonna start spiraling out of control. The archers die so badly to knights, and that's something that people doesn't seem to fully understand yet, despite the fact that we're seeing French dominate, and... Oh, that's such a good raid for Viper. Oh,
really,
my
really
goodness.
nice. Look at all the villager bodies on the ground. We missed it earlier, but we can see that the damage was done. Looks like 6 villagers going down at least in that berry patch. So were those berries worth it? They must have been very delicious.
Indeed. In fact, the Jur will be taken away just to make sure that it's not going to get
towards
burned
the
down.
north that we may have a battle that begins. It looks like, yeah, we've got armies chasing each other. Now, keep in mind, if there is any civilization that can make archers against the French, it is the Mongols. And there's 2 reasons why. Number 1, Yam network. So they're going to be having that extra movement speed buff. Number 2, Khan movement speed arrow. So if they get out of position, or if the knights look like they're going to connect a charge, he's going to be able to pop that, and he's going to be able to sprint away at the speed of light. He's going to be moving faster than...
Light.
Yeah, faster than light. Sure, let's go with that. He's going to be going very quick, though. So that is one of the things to note. He needs to stay within that Yam network. I would expect to see him begin to extend it out towards Viper's base, just so it continues to maintain, even when he's under the town center. But now 3 rams coming in. Is this 3rd time lucky, Lidakor? We did see the first ram push with 1 ram, the second ram push with 2 rams. The 3rd ram push is now coming in with 3 rams. Is this going to be enough to do it? We see Viper bringing out those knights from inside the town center, as well as a whole bunch of villagers going to be pushing out as well. Plenty of spears, and now we see it looks like an attack speed arrow coming off as the archers from Viper begin to wail on the archers from his enemy. All of his knights have they gone down, or have they gone inside the town center? Is this an extra smart play from Viper? Is he keeping everything inside the town center? Oh, the knights are over to the right now. Viper may be losing this town center. More knights coming out. 2 rams still up for his opponent. The longbows are or the archers rather, are at the back, but he's got a terrible fight here. Archers versus archers is not what he wants. He needs to be fighting archers against spears. The spears are not doing their job, though. They need to be over on top of the cavalry, and they are now over there. He's got to be careful, try and pick those off. It looks like the town center may be going down. Viper has got plenty of wood in there. The Khan goes down in the battle. The town center may go down here, but at what cost? Because it looks like Simtom may be losing his entire army with the Khan going down and no speed bonus. Viper tries his best to hold on with that town center. It looks like it might be 1 hit away from death, but it looks like the first or the second ram's going to be going down. A single ram remains. Does it go down in time? Viper holding on by the skin of his teeth. He holds. He holds.
Oh man, I feel like Simtom is just shooting himself in the foot so many times. I'm not saying that, now he could stop the knight production entirely just by destroying the School of Cavalry, because Viper has additional stables, but he just really wants to take that TC down, and I don't see the reason why. Because, you see, Viper's got a lot of firepower when he's nearby. He can repair that quite easily. It would be much easier to take down these buildings, or potentially even launch an assault this side. Just imagine if you destroy all these buildings. When you destroy them, it pretty much counts as buildings set on fire, so you would get a lot of resources even from just steamrolling this part of Viper's base.
Yeah, that's a massive thing as well. There's so much more that you can attack over there. You're going to be able to get those resources in. You have a lot of goals that you can achieve. The town center is one big goal, but over on that side, you've got all of these little goals that are going to be rewarding you with plenty of resources. It looks like Simtom's going to spot this raid out towards the south of his base. Going to be able to chase it away. We do see those pikes are buffed up with the Yam network. And now towards the north of the map, it looks like Simtom has finally realized that his real target is the School of Cavalry. Got to be careful, though, because if the knights manage to loop back and lose these spears, I potentially fear that they may clean these up completely. I don't think he's got the Khan out just yet. We see that it's got a couple more seconds on it before it is going to be coming up. It's going to be a while for them to run back. And now we see the knights beginning to move back towards this archer mass. And Viper doing his best. He's actually got a significant archer mass here.
Oh boy.
He's got to be very careful, Simtom. A new Khan has risen, but it looks to be a little bit slowed. Viper going to be connecting with these archers. Doing a great job of actually bringing the knights around just so that they don't get hit by the spears. And Viper's spears, or Viper's archer mass, beginning to dwindle ever so slightly as the knights are trying their best to defend it. We see the ram looking to lose its pathing and head towards the town center. It says, you know what, I know where I'm going, but Viper cleans this up very, very well. We now see a bit of a score lead pulling ahead for Simtom at the moment, but keep in mind, with the Mongol, the way that score works, it's a little bit funky. So Mongol score at the moment is bugged depending on what they do with their TCs. So that score may not be accurate, but Viper is definitely looking like a commanding lead at the moment, despite what that score says. Simtom stacking up a lot of food, a lot of wood at the moment, no gold at all for him. So if he's thinking about an age up, he's going to have to think about something else, because there's going to be no way for him to get up there. And how are you feeling about this game, Lidakor?
I feel like it's too late now for Simtom. There's a couple of symptoms over here, I would say, once again. Because here's the deal. He's floating some food over here, but the main problem is that he's sort of out of food, and as you said, this is a trash unit composition, and Viper's got just a better army now. He's got a big mass of archers as well, and knights too. Currently, Symptoms at 76 vills, Viper is at 53, so Symptoms still has a big eco lead, but I just feel like his army is now much inferior compared to Viper's one.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you. I think especially at this point in the game, it definitely looks like Viper's army is going to be significant. Now, keep in mind, in certain matchups, there are civilizations that can keep up with the French gold army. So as an example, the English are able to keep up with it if the English player micros well and takes out the enemy archers. So that is one of the very few trash compositions that can actually keep up with it. But now we see players beginning to trade out, spears running out. They've got to be careful here. And the mass continues to dwindle. Viper
Ooh, movement speed.
Movement speed.
That was movement speed instead of rate of fire. I'm not sure if that was intentional from our red player, because I think you want the attack speed arrow here, not the movement speed.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you. I think that's right. You definitely got to go for that movement speed. And Viper looking like he's probably going to clean this up as well. We actually see Horseman coming out, the very first Horseman of the game for our red player, Simtom.
Yeah, it's looking grim now. Viper is at 94 population, his opponent's at 94 as well, but once there is no army on the field for Simtom, his eco is just wide open for raiding, and Viper's gonna have so much mobility advantage here.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And this, Viper's really worked for this game. I will say that much. From the very beginning of this game, Viper has, tried his best to hold on for dear life, and it's been 3 times it's really been threatened. But he manages at this point to finally put the damage, put on the hurt to Simtom. I will note that Viper's actually collecting stone behind this. So whether he looks to drop down a town center, potentially begins to wall. It does actually look like he has dropped a second town center up on a hunt towards the north of the map as well. So Viper now going to begin investing in his economy significantly now that he's gained this militaristic lead. But at the same time, he's got to be careful not to throw it. Keep in mind that if you are investing in your economy, that's less units that you're going to be having out because more resources are going to be going into your villages, into your town center, etc. But yeah, Viper looking very strong.
And remember that Symptom still has the eco lead, so there is still a slim chance for him, but now I think is Viper, who is in a commanding position. Symptom invested a whole lot of resources into those rams, they never really worked out, and we can say that Viper can be thankful that Symptom tried to take down the TC and not additional buildings.
Yeah, I definitely think that's it. I think if he had gone for those additional buildings, the military production buildings especially, it would have been a completely different ballgame. Viper would have been very hard behind Simtom, but at the moment, Simtom having a bit of a difficult time. The main thing is now that Viper is sitting on top of his military production, Simtom's not going to be able to begin massing up. It's going to be very hard for him to do it. Simtom looking to get back into the game with a potential raid, but I feel like it might be a little bit too late for this.
Do you know what Viper doesn't have, however, and that's something that could be a game changer? Gold.
What?
Viper has pretty much run out of gold.
Right.
He's going for this gold mine just now. That's gonna buy some time, I think, for Symptom, that Viper was off from gold for some time.
Yeah, I definitely think that you're right, and I think that there's a bit of a window there. The main issue that Simtom is going to have is just fighting against these knights in Age 2. He can't really make horsemen because the knights are just going to be so effective against them. Horsemen only do 5 damage to knights, so it's really not an effective unit to go up against those knights. And keep in mind, those knights are going to heal up. So even if he gets a decent mass out and tries to take out these archers, it's going to be difficult for him. Now, Viper diving underneath the town center, probably going to be looking to finish this one off. Keep in mind, this is the final town center, or the landmark town center. We know because there's 20 villages that are inside it. No battering rams out for Viper at this point, so it looks like he's going to have to fall back from that main town center, but he's capable of camping on top of the military production buildings. We see Viper winning right there. Simtom calling good game, and an incredible game coming out from Viper and Simtom. Really well played.
Yeah, this was a very much back and forth game because, like, Symptom definitely had his chances, and I would dare to say that in the first half of this game, he had a pretty commanding position over Viper. He just never really punished Viper for not having as much army as he did, and he sort of allowed Viper to build that army numbers up. If you look at the game, for the majority of the time, Symptom had the army numbers advantage here. It's just, you see these big drops in their army. Those are those failed ramp pushes that really backfired for Symptom in the end.
Yeah, it was a lot of resources that were invested. And yeah, as I mentioned, it's primarily about getting those